Keisha Washington adjusted her nurse's badge as she walked through the sterile corridors of St. Augustine Medical Center, her sneakers squeaking softly against the polished floor. After 3 years working in the pediatric ward, she had been reassigned to private care, a change that both excited and intimidated her. The head nurse had mentioned that her new patient was particular and had gone through several caregivers in the past. 6 months, room 412 stood at the end of the hall, and Keisha took a deep breath before knocking. A deep voice called out, "Come in," and she entered to find a man in his early 30s sitting in a sleek wheelchair by the window. His dark skin had a healthy glow despite his circumstances, and his eyes held an intensity that made her pause. "You must be the new nurse," he said, his voice carrying a hint of resignation. "I'm Marcus Johnson." Keisha smiled warmly, extending her hand. "I'm Keisha Washington. I'll be taking care of you." What she didn't know was that the nameplate on the building outside read Johnson Medical Foundation. Marcus studied Keisha as she efficiently checked his chart and began her routine assessment. Unlike the previous nurses, who had treated him with either pity or clinical detachment, she spoke to him as an equal. Her natural hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her warm brown eyes held genuine kindness. "So, Marcus, what do you usually like to do during the day?" she asked while checking his blood pressure. "Most people don't ask me that," he replied, surprised by her approach. "They usually just assume I sit here feeling sorry for myself." Keisha laughed, a sound that filled the room with unexpected lightness. "Well, I'm not most people. Besides, being in a wheelchair doesn't make you any less interesting." Marcus found himself smiling for the first time in weeks. As the CEO of Johnson Medical Foundation and owner of this very hospital, he was used to people knowing exactly who he was before they met him. Keisha's genuine interest in him as a person, rather than his condition or status, was refreshingly different. Over the next few days, Keisha established a routine that went beyond basic medical care. She brought Marcus books from the hospital library, encouraged him to move around the building in his wheelchair, and even convinced him to spend time in the garden courtyard. "You know," she said one afternoon while helping him with his physical therapy exercises, "you seem too healthy to be stuck in a hospital room all day." Marcus hesitated, knowing he could leave whenever he wanted. The truth was, a car accident 6 months ago had left him paralyzed from the waist down, and he had been struggling with depression ever since. As the hospital's owner, he had access to the best private suite, but he hadn't been ready to face the world or his employees in his new condition. "It's complicated," he said finally. Keisha nodded understandingly. "Most worthwhile things are, but hiding away isn't going to make it less complicated." Her words hit him harder than any doctor's recommendation. For the first time since his accident, Marcus began to consider that maybe it was time to start living again. Keisha noticed that Marcus received unusually deferential treatment from the hospital staff. Doctors who barely acknowledged other patients would stop by his room to check on him personally, and the administrative staff seemed to know him well. When she mentioned it to him, Marcus deflected smoothly. "I've been here a while. You get to know people." 6 months isn't that long, Keisha observed, not buying his explanation entirely. She had worked at St. Augustine for 3 years and had never seen such attention paid to a single patient. During her lunch break, she asked her friend Janet from administration about Marcus Johnson. "Oh, honey," Janet said with a knowing look, "you don't know who he is, do you?" Before Keisha could respond, Janet was called away to handle an emergency. The conversation left Keisha with more questions than answers, but she decided not to pry. Whatever Marcus's story was, he would tell her in his own time. What mattered to her was the man she was getting to know intelligent, funny when he let his guard down, and surprisingly knowledgeable about hospital operations. As weeks passed, Keisha found herself looking forward to her shifts with Marcus more than she cared to admit. Their conversations ranged from books and music to deeper discussions about dreams and disappointments. Marcus spoke passionately about healthcare accessibility and seemed unusually well-informed. About hospital management and medical innovations. "You sound like you should be running a hospital instead of staying in one," Keisha teased one evening as they watched the sunset from his window. Marcus's expression grew serious. "Maybe I should be," he said quietly. The weight in his voice made Keisha study his face more carefully. There was something he wasn't telling her, but she had learned that Marcus revealed information when he was ready, not when pressed. Well, she said, taking his hand, whatever you decide to do, I think you'd be amazing at it. The simple faith in her voice moved Marcus deeply. Here was someone who believed in him, not because of his wealth or position, but because of who he was as a person. It was a gift he hadn't received in years. Marcus found himself in an increasingly difficult position. The longer he spent with Keisha, the more he cared about her, and the harder it became to reveal his true identity. He watched her struggle with her modest salary, heard her talk about her dreams of advancing her nursing career, and saw her dedication to patients who couldn't afford private care. How could he tell her that he owned the very hospital where she worked? Late one night, as Keisha helped him with his evening routine, she mentioned her concern about potential layoffs in the nursing department. The administration sent out a memo today, she said, worry evident in her voice. They're talking about restructuring to cut costs. I just hope I don't lose my job. Marcus felt a knot form in his stomach. He could end her worries with a single phone call, but doing so would expose his secret. Instead, he squeezed her hand reassuringly. You're an excellent nurse, Keisha. Any hospital would be lucky to have you. He made a mental note to speak with his chief of staff about the proposed layoffs. Some secrets, he was learning, came with a heavy price. Dr. Patricia Williams, the hospital's chief of staff and Marcus's longtime friend, made an unannounced visit to room 412. Keisha was adjusting Marcus's pillows when the distinguished woman in the white coat entered. Marcus, Dr. Williams said warmly, it's good to see you looking better. Then, turning to Keisha, she extended her hand. You must be the nurse everyone's been talking about. I'm Dr. Williams. Keisha shook her hand, confused by the comment. Everyone's been talking about me. Dr. Williams smiled knowingly. Word travels fast in the hospital. I hear you've been taking excellent care of our patient here. The pause was subtle but noticeable. Marcus shot his friend a warning look, which she caught immediately. Well, I should let you get back to your work, Dr. Williams said diplomatically. After she left, Keisha turned to Marcus with raised eyebrows. She seemed to know you pretty well. Marcus nodded casually. Like I said, when you've been here as long as I have, you get to know the staff. But Keisha was beginning to notice that the relationships seemed deeper than those of a typical long-term patient. Keisha's younger brother Jamal visited her at work one evening, coincidentally meeting Marcus for the first time. As a business student at the local university, Jamal was immediately struck by Marcus's sophisticated understanding of healthcare, economics, and hospital management. Man, you really know your stuff, Jamal said admiringly after Marcus had explained the complexities of medical insurance reimbursements. After Jamal left, he pulled Keisha aside in the hallway. Sis, there's something different about your patient. He talks like someone who's been in boardrooms, not hospital beds. Keisha defended Marcus, explaining that he was simply well-educated and well-read. But Jamal's observation planted a seed of curiosity. That night, she found herself really listening to the way Marcus spoke about the hospital, not as an outsider looking in, but as someone intimately familiar with its operations. When he mentioned specific policy changes and referred to administrators by their first names, Keisha began to wonder if there was more to Marcus Johnson than met the eye. The mystery surrounding him was becoming harder to ignore. Unable to shake her growing curiosity, Keisha decided to do some quiet investigating. During her break, she went to the hospital's lobby and studied the donor recognition Walla marble display honoring major benefactors. Her heart skipped a beat when she saw Johnson Medical Foundation listed as the primary sponsor, with a dedication reading in honor of the Johnson family's commitment to accessible healthcare. Her hand shook slightly as she pulled out her phone and searched for Johnson Medical Foundation. The results made her lean against the wall for support. Articles about Marcus Johnson, described as a young philanthropist and healthcare innovator, filled her screen. But all the photos showed him standing from before his accident. One article from 8 months ago mentioned a serious car accident involving the foundation's CEO, but details were kept private. Keisha stared at the photos of the man she had been caring for, seeing him in an entirely new light. The Marcus she knew, thoughtful, humble, and kind, was also one of the most powerful people in the city's medical community. The revelation left her feeling confused, betrayed, and strangely protective of the vulnerable man she had come to care about. The next morning, Keisha entered Marcus's room with a mixture of nervousness and determination. She had barely slept, wrestling with what she had discovered and trying to decide how to handle it. Marcus immediately noticed her changed demeanor. "You're quiet today," he observed, as she went about her routine with mechanical precision. "Marcus," she said finally, standing at the foot of his bed with her arms crossed, "is there anything you want to tell me?" The question hung heavy in the air between them. Marcus studied her face and saw that something had shifted. The easy trust and natural warmth were replaced by cautious professionalism. "What do you mean?" he asked, though his heart was already sinking. Keisha pulled out her phone and showed him the search results she had found. "I mean, is there anything you want to tell me about who you really are?" Marcus closed his eyes, knowing that the moment he had been dreading had finally arrived. When he opened them again, he saw hurt and confusion in Keisha's eyes. "Yes," he said quietly. "There's a lot I need to tell you." Marcus asked Keisha to sit down, his voice taking on a formal tone she had never heard before. "You're right. I'm Marcus Johnson, CEO of Johnson Medical Foundation and owner of St. Augustine Medical Center. This hospital." He watched as the full weight of his deception hit her. "I was in a car accident 6 months ago that left me paralyzed. I've been hiding here ever since, too afraid and too proud to face my responsibilities." Keisha sat in stunned silence, processing the magnitude of what he had just revealed. "So when I complained about my salary, about the potential layoffs, about the hospital policies, you could have fixed all of that." Her voice was barely above a whisper. Marcus nodded miserably. "When you worried about losing your job, when you talked about your dreams of advancing your career, when you mentioned the need for better equipment in pediatric Psi, had the power to change all of it, and I said nothing." Keisha stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. "Why? Why didn't you tell me?" Marcus's answer came from a place of deep vulnerability. "Because for the first time in my adult life, someone cared about me for who I am, not what I own. I was selfish, and I'm sorry." Keisha requested to be reassigned immediately, but the head nurse informed her that Marcus had specifically requested she remain as his caregiver, request that carried significant weight given his position. "I can't work with someone who's been lying to me for weeks," Keisha protested, but she was reminded of her professional obligations and the excellent care reviews Marcus had given her. Returning to his room felt like entering enemy territory. Marcus attempted to explain his perspective, but Keisha maintained strict professional boundaries. "Mr. Johnson," she said, emphasizing his formal title, "I'm here to provide medical care, nothing more." The warmth that had developed between them was replaced by cold efficiency. Marcus felt the loss acutely. "Keisha, please let me explain. It's Nurse Washington," she corrected him sharply. The wall she had erected was impenetrable, and Marcus realized that his deception had cost him something more valuable than he had initially understood. As Keisha went about her duties with mechanical precision, both of them felt the painful absence of the connection they had built. Trust, once broken, would not be easily repaired. The tension in room 412 was palpable as days passed, with Keisha maintaining strict professional distance. Marcus found himself missing not just her warmth, but her honest opinions and challenging questions. He had grown accustomed to her treating him as an equal, and the return to being treated as merely a patient, albeit a powerful one, felt like a step backward in his recovery. During one of their silent encounters, Dr. Williams visited again and immediately sensed the changed atmosphere. After Keisha left the room, she confronted Marcus. "What happened? The nurse who was helping you make such progress now looks like she'd rather be anywhere else." Marcus explained the situation, and Dr. Williams shook her head disapprovingly. "Marcus, you've been hiding from your responsibilities for 6 months, and now you've hurt someone who genuinely cared about you. When are you going to stop running?" Her words hit home because they were true. Marcus realized that his deception had not only damaged his relationship with Keisha, but had also prevented him from addressing the real issues he needed to face. The accident had changed his body, but his fear and pride were threatening to change his character as well. Determined to begin making amends, Marcus made his first official decision as hospital owner in 6 months. He called an emergency meeting with the administrative staff to address the proposed nursing layoffs that had been worrying Keisha. From his wheelchair in the conference room, his first time in the boardroom since the accident, he firmly rejected the cost-cutting measures and instead approved a budget increase for the nursing department. When word of the decision reached the nursing staff, Keisha heard about it from her colleagues. "Did you hear? The owner himself intervened to save our jobs," Janet said excitedly. "Apparently, he's been here recovering from his accident and heard about our concerns." Keisha realized that Marcus had been listening to her worries and had acted on them, even after she had pushed him away. That evening, she entered his room to find a letter on her station addressed to Nurse Washington. In it, Marcus had written, "I cannot undo my deception, but I can ensure that your dedication to your patients and profession is properly recognized and supported. Your job is secure, and the pediatric wing will receive the equipment upgrades you mentioned. This isn't an apology, it's acknowledgement that you deserve better." The gesture was significant, but Keisha wasn't sure if it was enough to bridge the gap between them. Against her better judgment, Keisha found herself softening slightly toward Marcus. His actions regarding the nursing staff had shown her that he had been listening to her concerns and cared enough to act on them during their routine interactions. She began to respond to his attempts at conversation, though she maintained her professional boundaries. "The pediatric wing received new monitoring equipment yesterday," she mentioned while checking his vital signs. Marcus nodded. "I heard it arrived safely." There was a pause before Keisha asked, "Why didn't you tell me you were going to do that?" Marcus looked directly at her. "Because I wanted you to know that I heard you, even when you thought I was just a patient with no power to help." The honesty in his response caught her off guard. For the first time since learning his identity, Keisha saw past her hurt to remember the man who had listened to her dreams and fears. It was a good thing to do, she admitted quietly. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a crack in the wall she had built between them. Marcus felt a small surge of hope that perhaps their connection hadn't been completely destroyed by his deception. During a particularly difficult physical therapy session, Marcus's frustration with his limitations boiled over. Keisha watched as he struggled with exercises that had once been simple, his face contorted with effort and disappointment. "I used to run marathons," he said through gritted teeth. "I used to stand in boardrooms and command respect through presence, alone. Now I can't even get to the second floor without help." For the first time since learning his identity, Keisha saw past her own hurt to recognize his pain. "Is that why you've been hiding here? Because you're afraid people will see you differently?" Marcus stopped his exercises and looked at her. "Partly, but also because I don't know how to be the leader they need me to be from this chair." Keisha sat down so she was at his eye level. "Marcus, leadership isn't about standing or walking. It's about making decisions that help people, having vision, caring about outcomes. You've been doing that all along." Her words carried the weight of professional observation and personal insights. The man who saved dozens of nursing jobs isn't any less capable because he uses a wheelchair. Marcus felt something shift inside him at her words. Not romantic hope, but the beginning of self-acceptance. As Marcus began to accept Keisha's professional perspective on his capabilities, he started making more executive decisions from his hospital room. He held video conferences with department heads, reviewed budgets, and approved policy changes. Keisha observed his transformation from defeated patient to engaged leader with professional admiration. "You're different when you're working," she commented one afternoon after overhearing him navigate a complex contract negotiation. More confident, Marcus paused his laptop work to look at her. "I'm still the same person, just finally remembering that I have value beyond my physical abilities." Keisha nodded approvingly. "That's what I've been trying to tell you." Their conversation was interrupted by Dr. Williams, who expressed amazement at Marcus's recent engagement with hospital operations. "The board has been asking when you'll return to work," she mentioned. Marcus glanced at Keisha, then back at his friend. "Soon," I think I'm almost ready. The exchange revealed how much Marcus had grown during his recovery, and Keisha felt proud of the role she had played in his progress. Even if their personal relationship remained complicated, Keisha began to appreciate Marcus, not just as a patient who had recovered his confidence, but as a leader who genuinely cared about healthcare quality and worker welfare. When he consulted her opinion on nursing staff policies, she realized he valued her professional expertise and frontline perspective. The administration wants to implement mandatory overtime to reduce staffing costs, Marcus mentioned during one of their sessions. What's your professional opinion? Keisha was surprised to be asked, but answered thoughtfully. Mandatory overtime leads to burnout, which increases mistakes and turnover. It's short-term thinking that creates long-term problems. Marcus nodded and made notes. That's exactly what I suspected. Thank you for confirming it. Later that day, the mandatory overtime policy was officially rejected, and additional staff were hired instead. Keisha began to understand that Marcus's earlier deception hadn't just been about hiding his identity, it had been about wanting someone to see him as a person rather than a position. While she still felt hurt by his dishonesty, she was beginning to respect the leader he was becoming and the way he valued her professional input. Their relationship was evolving into something different than before, built on mutual professional respect rather than just personal connection. Marcus started including Keisha in discussions about patient care improvements, recognizing that her years of frontline experience provided valuable insights that boardroom discussions often missed. She found herself looking forward to these conversations, appreciating his genuine interest in improving hospital operations for both patients and staff. The emergency department wait times are getting worse, Marcus said, showing her statistical reports. The board wants to add more beds, but I think the problem is process efficiency. Keisha studied the data. It's not just process. The triage system is outdated, and we need more experienced nurses in key positions. Adding beds without addressing staffing expertise won't solve anything. Marcus made extensive notes on her suggestions. Would you be willing to present these ideas to the department heads? Keisha hesitated. I'm just a staff nurse, Marcus. They're not going to listen to me. You're a nurse with 3 years of experience and clear insights into operational problems, he corrected. And as the owner of this hospital, I'm asking for your professional opinion. The conversation marked a turning point where Keisha began to see their relationship as a professional partnership rather than just patient care or personal betrayal. When Marcus formally presented Keisha's suggestions to the hospital's leadership team, crediting her insights fully, she felt a sense of professional validation she had never experienced. The emergency department restructuring based on her signatures resulted in a 30% reduction in wait times within 2 weeks. Dr. Williams approached Keisha privately after the successful implementation. Marcus tells me these efficiency improvements were your ideas? Keisha nodded modestly. I just shared what I've observed working here. Dr. Williams smiled knowingly. Good observations require intelligence and experience. Have you ever considered advancing your education? The hospital has a program for staff nurses to earn advanced degrees. The conversation planted a seed that Keisha hadn't allowed herself to consider before. That evening, she mentioned the possibility to Marcus during their routine check. Dr. Williams suggested I could pursue a nurse practitioner degree, she said casually. Marcus's face lit up. That's excellent, Keisha. You'd be incredible in an advanced role. His enthusiasm was genuine and supportive, without any hint of the patronizing tone she might have expected from someone in his position. For the first time since learning his identity, Keisha felt they were connecting as equals again. Marcus used his position to create opportunities for Keisha's professional development, but he was careful to do so in ways that recognized her merit rather than appearing to give her special treatment. He recommended her for a leadership training program available to all hospital staff and ensured she received information about educational advancement opportunities. I want to be clear about something, Marcus said during one of their conversations. Any opportunities you receive are based on your demonstrated abilities and potential, not on our personal relationship. Keisha appreciated his directness. I wouldn't want it any other way, She had seen too many workplace situations where personal relationships led to questions about professional competence. Good, Marcus replied, because I believe you have the potential to be a leader in healthcare, and I don't want anyone, including you, to question whether you earned it. The conversation reflected how their relationship had matured from personal connection, through professional respect to mutual support for each other's growth. Keisha began to see that Marcus's position could be an asset to her career development without compromising her integrity, as long as the opportunities were merit-based and professionally appropriate. As Marcus prepared to return to his office and resume his full-time leadership responsibilities, both he and Keisha knew their daily interactions would change significantly. The intensive caregiving relationship that had brought them together was no longer necessary, as Marcus had regained his independence and confidence. "I'll miss our conversations," Marcus admitted during what would be one of their last extended sessions together. "You've helped me remember who I am beyond my limitations." Keisha felt a similar sense of loss. "You've helped me see possibilities I never considered for myself." Their relationship had evolved through multiple phases, from caregiver and patient, through betrayal and mistrust, to professional partnership and mutual respect. As they prepared to transition to new roles, both felt the significance of what they had shared. "Will things be awkward when you're back in the executive suite and I'm just a staff nurse?" Keisha asked. Marcus shook his head firmly. "You'll never be just anything, Keisha, and I hope we can maintain our professional collaboration." The prospect of change was bittersweet, but both recognized that their growth required moving forward into new challenges and opportunities. Marcus's return to his executive office was met with relief and celebration from the hospital staff. His 6-month absence had left a leadership vacuum that temporary measures couldn't fully address. From his wheelchair, he resumed control of operations with a renewed perspective on patient care and employee welfare that impressed the board and staff alike. Keisha watched the transformation from her position in the nursing department with mixed emotions. The Marcus she had come to know intimately was now the polished executive she saw in meetings and hospital corridors. Their interactions became brief and professional, a nod in the hallway, a consultation about policy changes, nothing like the deep conversations they had shared during his recovery. She missed the connection they had built, but she also felt proud seeing him fully engaged in his leadership role. When colleagues mentioned how different he seemed since his return, more empathetic, more focused on staff welfare, Keisha felt a quiet satisfaction knowing she had played a role in his personal growth. Their relationship had changed, but the impact they had on each other remained significant. As weeks passed, Keisha threw herself into her work with renewed purpose. She applied for the nurse practitioner program Dr. Williams had suggested and began taking leadership training courses offered through the hospital. Marcus observed her professional development from a distance, feeling proud of her growth while missing their personal connection. Their paths crossed occasionally in professional settings. During a hospital-wide meeting about patient care improvements, Keisha presented her ideas for emergency department efficiency with confidence and expertise. Marcus watched from the back of the room, remembering when she had first shared those same insights with him privately. After the presentation, several department heads approached her with questions and praise. "Excellent work, Nurse Washington," Marcus said formally when their paths crossed afterward. "Thank you, Mr. Johnson," she replied with equal formality. The exchange was polite but distant, reflecting how they had both moved forward into their respective roles. While they maintained professional respect, the intimacy they had once shared seemed like a distant memory. Both were growing stronger, individually, but the cost was the special connection that had helped them both heal and discover their potential. Marcus immersed himself in hospital operations with unprecedented dedication, implementing changes that reflected the insights he had gained during his recovery. He established new patient advocacy programs, improved staff working conditions, and created pathways for employee advancement. His leadership style became more collaborative and empathetic, changes that didn't go unnoticed by the board and staff. Meanwhile, Keisha excelled in her advanced training and was promoted to a senior nursing position with increased responsibilities. She found herself in meetings where Marcus was present, but their interactions remained strictly professional. She had built a reputation as an innovative thinker and effective leader, earning respect independent of any connection to the hospital's owner. During one particularly successful project, implementing a new patient education program, she realized she had found her own professional identity and confidence. The woman who had once worried about job security was now someone whose opinions were sought and valued. Both she and Marcus had grown tremendously, but they had done so along parallel paths that rarely intersected beyond professional necessity. A major crisis at the hospital forced Marcus and Keisha to work together closely for the first time since his return to leadership. A severe flu outbreak stretched the hospital's resources to the breaking point, requiring all hands on deck and innovative solutions to manage patient care while protecting staff health. "I need your assessment of nursing staff capacity," Marcus said during an emergency meeting, his tone urgent but respectful. Keisha provided detailed analysis of staffing levels, patient acuity, and resource needs. "We need to cross-train staff from other departments and implement modified protocols," she recommended. Marcus nodded, valuing her frontline perspective. "Can you coordinate that?" "Yes," she replied without hesitation. Working together during the crisis reminded both of them why they had connected so strongly during Marcus's recovery. Their professional partnership was seamless, built on mutual respect and complementary strengths. Keisha's practical experience, combined with Marcus's strategic thinking, created effective solutions that helped the hospital manage the outbreak successfully. During the intense weeks of crisis management, they rediscovered their professional chemistry without the personal complications that had previously complicated their relationship. The successful management of the flu outbreak earned both Marcus and Keisha recognition from the hospital board and medical community. Marcus was praised for his decisive leadership and innovative response strategies, while Keisha received commendation for her coordination of nursing resources and development of modified patient care protocols. "The board wants to offer you a position in hospital administration," Marcus informed Keisha during a post-crisis debriefing. "Your leadership during the outbreak demonstrated executive potential." Keisha was surprised by the offer. "I'm not sure I'm ready for administration. I love patient care." Marcus nodded understandingly. "That's exactly why you'd be good at it. Too many administrators lose sight of patient care. You wouldn't." The conversation reflected how their professional relationship had evolved. Marcus was offering opportunities based on observed competence, and Keisha was confident enough to consider them on their own merits. "Think about it," Marcus suggested. "The hospital needs leaders who understand both patient care and operations." As Keisha considered the possibility, she realized that her professional growth had given her options she had never imagined when she first walked into room 412 months. Earlier, Keisha wrestled with the administration offer for weeks, seeking advice from mentors, family, and colleagues. The position would mean significantly more responsibility and better compensation, but it would also take her away from direct patient care, the aspect of nursing she loved most. During a chance encounter in the hospital cafeteria, Marcus noticed her preoccupation. "Still thinking about the administrative position?" he asked, joining her at the table. "I am," she admitted. "It's a great opportunity, but I'm not sure it's the right fit for me." Marcus appreciated her thoughtfulness. What would make it the right fit? Keisha considered his question. "If I could design the role to include direct involvement in patient care policies and staff development, if it weren't just about budgets and bureaucracy," Marcus smiled. "What if we created a position that combined administrative responsibility with clinical oversight? A director role that kept you connected to patient care while utilizing your leadership abilities." The conversation sparked possibilities that neither had initially considered. Perhaps there was a way to advance professionally without abandoning the work she was passionate about. Marcus and the board approved the creation of a new position, Director of Patient Care and Nursing Excellence, designed specifically to utilize Keisha's unique combination of clinical expertise and leadership abilities. The role would involve policy development, staff training, and quality improvement initiatives while maintaining connection to direct patient care. "Are you sure this isn't just being created for me?" Keisha asked during the formal job offer meeting. Dr. Williams, who was part of the interview panel, answered firmly, "This is a position the hospital needs, and you're the person with the qualifications to fill it. Your performance during the flu outbreak demonstrated exactly the kind of leadership we're looking for." Marcus added, "The role is being created because we recognize the need for administrative leaders with clinical backgrounds. You've proven you can bridge that gap effectively." Accepting the position felt like a natural evolution of Keisha's career rather than a dramatic departure from her nursing roots. As she prepared to transition into her new role, she felt excited about the opportunities to influence patient care on a broader scale while maintaining the hands-on involvement that had drawn her to healthcare in the first place. In her new role as Director of Patient Care and Nursing Excellence, Keisha found herself working more closely with Marcus on strategic initiatives. Their professional partnership was strong, built on mutual respect and shared commitment to improving hospital operations and patient outcomes. "The patient satisfaction scores in the cardiac unit are concerning," Marcus mentioned during their weekly administrative meeting. "What's your assessment?" Keisha had already investigated the issue. "The problem is communication between the medical team and patients' families. The clinical care is excellent, but families feel left out of the process." She presented a detailed plan for improving communication protocols and family engagement strategies. Marcus was impressed by her thorough analysis and practical solutions. "Let's implement this immediately," he decided. Working together in their new roles, both Marcus and Keisha discovered that their professional relationship was even stronger than their personal connection had been. They challenged each other intellectually, brought different perspectives to problems, and shared a vision for healthcare excellence that made their collaboration highly effective. As months passed in their new working relationship, Marcus and Keisha developed a professional partnership that was admired throughout the hospital. Their meetings were productive, their collaboration on initiatives was seamless, and their mutual respect was evident to everyone who worked with them. "You two make a formidable team," Dr. Williams observed after a particularly successful board presentation they had delivered together. "The hospital has never run more efficiently or with better patient outcomes." Indeed, their combined leadership had resulted in improved staff satisfaction, better patient care metrics, and enhanced operational efficiency. Keisha's clinical background and frontline experience complemented Marcus's strategic thinking and business acumen perfectly. They had found a way to work together that honored both their professional strengths and their shared values. While their relationship had begun with personal connection and been complicated by deception and hurt feelings, it had evolved into something more sustainable and arguably more valuable, a partnership based on professional excellence and mutual admiration for each other's capabilities and character. Both Marcus and Keisha had grown significantly as individuals through their experiences together. Marcus had learned to lead with greater empathy and to value the perspectives of frontline staff. His management style had become more collaborative and inclusive, earning him respect not just for his position, but for his leadership abilities. Keisha had discovered confidence in her own judgment and leadership potential. She no longer saw herself as just a nurse, but as a healthcare professional with valuable insights and the ability to influence positive change. Her success in her new role had opened doors she had never imagined when she first started working at St. Augustine Medical Center. During a hospital-wide recognition ceremony, both received awards for their contributions to patient care and operational excellence. As they stood together, acknowledging the applause, both reflected on how much they had grown since their first meeting in